Hey guys, tonight we're diving into medieval life where there's no Wi-Fi, no soap, and definitely no mercy. You think your 3-day-old coffee cup on your desk is rough? Try surviving a week without bathing. Ever. This isn't a Game of Thrones fantasy. This is real medieval Europe where teeth fall out by 30 and public executions are your weekend entertainment. So before you get too cozy, hit that like button if you enjoy deep, immersive history dives, and tell me in the comments what's the longest you've gone without a shower? Be honest, judgment-free zone, mostly. Dim the lights, get comfortable, and maybe keep a bar of soap nearby, just for emotional support. Let's begin. You wake up, not in a comfy bed, but on a pile of straw crawling with lice. You scratch your head, the lice scratch back. Your bedroom is a one-room cottage you share with 7 family members. One goat and a duck named Jeffrey, who definitely thinks he runs the place. The smell? Imagine if a sweaty gym sock married an open sewer and they had a baby. That baby is your heir. You stretch, step outside, into a world that smells even worse. Welcome to your medieval morning routine. Toilet? Nope, it's the bushes. If you're rich, maybe a chamber pot. If you're lucky, you'll dump it out before someone yells, "Watch out below. Now you're hungry. Time for breakfast." No cereal, no toast, no oat milk latte with a side of Instagram. You get pottage, a sludgy porridge made from barley, onions, and whatever didn't rot overnight. Chunky. You eat it with a wooden spoon out of a communal bowl. Everyone double dips because germs haven't been invented yet. And guess what? You're eating with your fingers most of the time anyway. Forks are suspiciously French and haven't caught on yet. Forks fancy sorcery. All right, time to work. You're a serf, which is basically medieval, for full-time laborer, part-time human. Your job? Farming someone else's land. Rain or shine, plague or no plague. You till fields using tools that haven't been upgraded since the Bronze Age. Your hands, blistered. Your back, a medieval horror story. And if your ox dies, congratulations, you're now the ox. There's no 9 to 5 here. It's more like 5 to eternal fatigue. And no, you don't get PTO, unless you die. Then you get permanent time off. Okay, let's talk hygiene, or rather, the absence of it. Bathing? Rare. Like maybe once a month if you're a germaphobe. Soap? Expensive and reserved for rich folks in monasteries. You, dear peasant, are cleaning yourself with ash and sand. Deodorant? The only thing masking your stench is everyone else's stench. So in a weird way, you all cancel each other out. Teeth brushing? Cute idea. Most people lost their teeth by 30 anyway. You're on year 25 and already chewing on the left side only. Also, spoiler, your local water source is the same stream you drink from, wash in, and relieve yourself into. Cheers. The sun sets. You've survived another day. Feeling social? Time for a village gathering. Maybe there's a traveling bard, some storytelling, or, if you're lucky, a good old public execution. It's like a reality show, but with more blood and fewer commercial breaks. You huddle by the fire, drink ale that tastes like someone dared beer to be worse, and try not to inhale too much smoke. Oh, and don't get caught gossiping about the Lord's wife. That could earn you a trip to the stocks or worse. Still think medieval life was romantic? Tell that to the guy hanging from the gallows because he stole a chicken. Bedtime. You crawl back into your bug-ridden straw mattress. Jeffrey the duck has stolen your spot again. You close your eyes. The sounds of the night? Wolves howling, villagers coughing, tuberculosis anyone? And someone vomiting outside your window. Ah, peaceful. And tomorrow? You do it all again. Unless the Black Death rolls into town. Then, well, no reruns. So, still romanticizing the Middle Ages? Sure, they had castles and courtly love and knights in shiny armor, but they also had plague pits, lice colonies, and more body odor than a packed summer subway car. Next time your Wi-Fi drops or your shower runs cold, take a deep breath and say, hey, at least I'm not medieval. All right, you've you've lit a candle or two. Maybe you're clutching a bottle of hand sanitizer for comfort. Now let's begin your descent into the past. You open your eyes. It's morning, kind of. The light streaming through the wooden slats above your straw mattress isn't exactly sunshine. It's more like a mildly brighter shade of gray fog. Your face itches. So does your scalp. So do your armpits. Congratulations. You've time traveled to the Middle Ages. You sit up slowly because you've just realized two things. One, your entire body hurts. Two, that smell, that's you. Nope, no hot showers, no cucumber mint body wash. Just the rich bouquet of sweat, unwashed linen, and the kind of breath that could knock a pigeon out of the sky. You reach for your clothes, aka the same tunic you've worn for the last 17 days, and you begin your medieval morning. This is not a simulation. You're not playing Skyrim on survival mode. This is real, raw, unforgiving medieval life. Over the next few minutes, you're going to live it. From sunup to sundown, hunger to humiliation, plague to pottage. We'll walk through your daily grind, one miserable, mud-caked, lice-infested step at a time. And yes, you're going to smell things, terrible things, because medieval life isn't just dirty. It's violently unhygienic. Still here? Brave soul. All right then, let's take your filthy peasant hand and dive straight into chapter 1. Wake up and smell the filth. Cut to gritty visuals of muddy streets, open latrines, and villagers coughing over communal stew. So, you've woken up. You smell like a foot. Your feet also smell like a foot. And nature's calling. You look around your one-room cottage. No toilet, no privacy, no shame. What do? You grab your wooden chamber pot, a glorified bowl you pee in, and let's be honest, sometimes miss entirely. If you're in a good mood, you dump it outside in what the villagers generously call a gutter. If not, you toss it right out the window yelling, "Gardez-l'eau," French for "watch the water," which is basically medieval for incoming biological hazard. Now imagine walking down the street barefoot. Because, surprise, shoes are a luxury. Hope you like guessing whether you just stepped in mud, or last night's stew, or someone's stew if you catch my drift. And while we're here, let's talk about those streets. The medieval village isn't cute and cobblestone like your favorite RPG. It's a living mud pie. Animals roam free, pigs, goats, chickens, and the occasionally emotionally unavailable donkey. They poop wherever they want. You sidestep it with the grace of a ballerina who's accepted her fate. Children run around half naked. They laugh, they wrestle, they try to eat rocks. Adults barely notice. Why would they? Child mortality rates are brutal. By age 5, nearly half of them are dead. But hey, if you make it to 10, you're basically a seasoned warrior. And don't expect clean water. That stream everyone drinks from? Yeah, it's also the laundry machine, the bathtub, and let's call it what it is, the community toilet. You thirsty yet? By now your stomach's growling. Time for breakfast, right? Sure. If you call chewing on sadness a meal, you slurp down something called pottage. Imagine watery oatmeal had a nervous breakdown in a turnip patch. That's pottage. It's warmish, vaguely edible, definitely gray. And it tastes, how do I put this nicely? Like betrayal. Meat. Ha, that's for nobles. You peasant friend are lucky if you find a piece of bacon once a year, probably on your birthday. But don't worry, there's plenty of barley bread so dense it could be used as a weapon. And you better eat fast, your chores are waiting. You're not clocking into an office. You're walking into a field where the dirt actively judges you. Farming isn't cute. It's back-breaking, finger-snapping, soul-crushing work. You till soil with tools that are basically sticks attached to other sticks. No tractor, no gloves, no sunscreen. Just you, the sun, and a deep yearning for reincarnation. If you don't own land, congrats, you're a serf. That's Latin for, I work for someone else and can't legally leave. It's like an unpaid internship, but with more blisters and a higher chance of dying from a cow. Oh, and if you're not farming, you're spinning wool, or making candles, or hauling buckets of water a mile uphill because someone decided wells were a bourgeois concept. Your muscles ache, your hands bleed, your clothes smell like damp sadness. Welcome to Tuesday. Tired? Good. Let's talk about salvation. Every part of your life is ruled by the church. You don't read the Bible, it's in Latin. You don't read anything, actually. You're illiterate, remember? But the priest, he reads. And he tells you that if you sin, and oh boy, you'll burn forever in hell. Miss Mass? Sin. Think about your neighbor's wife? Sin. Eat meat on a Friday? Hellfire buffet, table for one. You pay tithes, confess your secrets, and pray that the angels overlook the time you stole your cousin's turnip. But deep down, you know, God might love you, but the system, not so much. And now, a word from our sponsor, the Black Death. You know that neighbor who's been coughing for 3 days? Yeah, he's not gonna make it. The plague is no joke. One flea bite, just one, and your body becomes a Renaissance painting of suffering. Boils, fever, vomiting, more boils. And then, nothing. Just silence. And maybe a pile of you outside the village walls. And rats? Oh, they're thriving. They're the true landlords of medieval Europe. You just pay rent in breadcrumbs and blood. The worst part? No one knows what's causing the plague. You blame witches, or the Jews, or sin. Definitely not the rats. Rats are just vibes. By now you're cold. You're starving. Your back is ruined. Your shoes are made of anxiety. So why do you keep going? Because once in a while, there's music, a harvest dance, a wedding feast. Someone bakes real bread and shares it with the whole village. A traveling juggler shows up, and you laugh, like really laugh, for the first time in weeks. You fall in love. You pass down stories. You look at the stars and wonder what's out there, same as we do now. And when it's all over, your name might vanish from history. But the sweat and struggle of your life, it builds the world that eventually gives birth to ours. So you survived a day in the Middle Ages? Barely. You're filthy, sore, underfed, and somehow still emotionally attached to Jeffrey the Duck. Now go ahead, turn your shower on. Eat a chocolate bar. Text your friend just because you can. And when the Wi-Fi lags for 5 seconds, take a deep breath and thank your lucky stars you're not pooping in a bucket. Until next time, keep your soap close and your duck even closer. All right, let's talk romance. Or, well, whatever medieval Europe considered close enough. Forget dating apps. Forget long walks on the beach. You're a peasant. You fall in love when your dad trades you for 2 goats and a decent sack of flour. You meet your future spouse when you're maybe 14. No candlelit dinners, no love letters, no Spotify playlists. Just your mother whispering, That one still has most of their teeth. Good match. And if you're lucky, you marry someone from your own village who doesn't smell too violently and doesn't scream in their sleep. True love, medieval edition. Once married, you crank out babies faster than a medieval blacksmith cranks out horseshoes. Why? Because you need extra hands on the farm, and because half of them won't survive past toddlerhood. Love is fleeting. Children are currency. And your honeymoon? That's called going back to work after lunch. Feeling rebellious? Maybe you stole a loaf of bread or looked at the Lord's daughter a little too long. Let's talk punishment. Forget trials and rights and all that modern luxury. This is medieval justice. Swift, brutal, wildly performative. For petty theft, stocks. For blasphemy, branding. For real crimes like murder or rebellion, public execution, aka the town's hottest social event. And it's not just about death, it's about how you die. Hanged, drawn, and quartered, that's the royal special. They hang you till you almost die, slice you open, pull out your intestines, and then just to be thorough, chop you into pieces and nail them around town. Because nothing says don't commit tax fraud like your thigh nailed to the blacksmith store. The Middle Ages didn't mess around. Justice was equal parts punishment and performance art. So what do you do when you're not working or praying or avoiding airborne plagues? Entertainment, baby. There's no Netflix, no TikTok. But hey, you've got feast days, Morris dancing, and the occasional bear baiting match. Yes, that's a real thing. They tie a bear to a post, set dogs on it, and cheer like it's the Super Bowl. Brutal? Absolutely, but it's that or watching pigs fight in the mud. Sometimes a traveling juggler shows up, or a puppet show that weirdly ends in fire and crying children. You might even go to a mystery play, where townsfolk act out Bible stories. And by act, I mean stumble through their lines while everyone laughs when Joseph forgets his cue and the devil moonwalks across the stage. Low budget, high stakes, mild trauma. Let's take a moment for the women of the Middle Ages. Because if you think life's hard as a man, oh honey, sit down. Girls are married young, expected to bear children early. And childbirth? It's like Russian roulette with a 4-chamber revolver. There's no anesthesia, no clean sheets, no concept of germs. You bite down on leather, hope the midwife isn't drunk, and pray you don't bleed to death before naming the baby after a saint you barely remember. And if you survive, you get right back to spinning wool, churning butter, and scrubbing your husband's pottage pot while your back screams from the 12-pound baby you just shoved into the world. Can you inherit land? Rarely. Can you own property? If your husband dies. But still, women hold families together, run farms when men are away, and quietly, behind the muck and misery, they shape the future in kitchens, fields, and whispered rebellion. You thought we were done talking about the stench? Oh no, we've barely scratched the surface of your medieval nasal nightmare. Let's list a few popular perfumes of the day. Dead fish rotting in market stalls. Sheep manure gently warming in the sun. Old ale spilled on a dirt floor and never cleaned. Pus. Just pus. Your feet, your neighbor's feet. Jeffrey the duck's feet. Yes, he's still around. He's a survivor. In summer, it gets worse. The heat bakes every scent into a dense, invisible wall of funk. And with no deodorant and layers of wool, you're basically a walking stew of body odor and shame. Yet somehow, you adapt. Your nose gives up. Your brain accepts it. You reach olfactory enlightenment. But wait, it's not all doom and gloom. Sometimes you catch the sun setting behind a crumbling stone abbey, and it's so quiet you swear you can hear the stars sigh. Sometimes the baker slips you a crust of warm bread just because. Sometimes a lute plays in the square, and for 5 minutes you forget the smell, the mud, the fear. You look at your dirt-covered hands, your blistered feet, your village of chaos, and you think, I exist, here, now, against all odds. And honestly, that's kind of beautiful. So here's the question. Would you survive medieval life? Would you rise with the sun and fight the dirt, disease, and despair? Would you find moments of laughter between the lice and the laundry? Or would you tap out before breakfast? Tell me in the comments what's the one medieval habit, job, or punishment you absolutely couldn't handle. And hey, if you're still watching, you survived longer than most peasants did. Like if this ruined your medieval fantasy in the best way. Subscribe if you want more deep dives into the weird, wild, and occasionally horrifying corners of history. Because this is just one world we've left behind, and we've got so many more to explore. You're coughing. A lot. There's blood. There's pain. You're pale, feverish, possibly hallucinating. So you do what any medieval person would do. You call the barber. Yes, the guy who cuts hair also cuts other things, like your skin. Welcome to barber surgeons, who wield razors, saws, and terrifying confidence. First, they diagnose you by examining your urine color in sunlight. Then they mumble something about imbalanced humors, blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile, which sounds more like a gross Hogwarts house quiz. The solution? Bloodletting. They slice open your arm, let the blood flow, and if you faint, that means it's working. No gloves, no antiseptic, no clue. If you survive the treatment, congratulations, your illness probably wasn't that bad to begin with. And if you don't, well, they bury you with all the other test subjects. You want answers? Logic? Evidence? Sorry, you're in a world where everything is a sign from God or the devil. Your cow stops giving milk. A witch did it. Your kid sneezes twice in a row. Possession. Your neighbor's field is greener than yours. Definitely made a deal with dark forces. People believed in fairies stealing babies, elves causing arthritis, and demons whispering sins into your ear while you sleep. Protection? You wear a dried toad in a pouch around your neck, or rub pig's fat on your forehead, or sleep with a rusty dagger under your pillow just in case the night spirits show up. Witch trials are real and horrifying. Accusations fly. Women are burned, drowned, or worse, questioned by men who think sneezing is devil worship. So yeah, don't look too mysterious, or educated, or helpful. Basically, don't stand out. That's how you stay alive. You hear the bells. You hear the shouting. You smell smoke. Congratulations, your village is being attacked. War in medieval times isn't organized. It's not noble. It's not chivalry. It's chaos, screaming, looting, and fire. You might be conscripted into your lord's army with nothing but a wooden spear and a potato sack for armor. Your training? Pointy end goes forward. You march for days, sleep in the mud, and eat something that might have once been bread. Then you arrive at the battlefield and everything is louder, bloodier, and more terrifying than anything you imagine. There's no strategy, just arrows, axes, screaming horses, and a guy next to you named Cedric who's already lost an eye and thinks he's a duck. And if you survive the fight, you might not survive the infection. Most soldiers died weeks later from wounds filled with dirt and medieval bacteria. War isn't heroic. It's a slow-motion meat grinder with flags. So far, you've been a peasant. Let's dream for a moment. Let's say you were born rich, noble, landed, important. Ah, yes, the castle. Stone walls, a fire roaring, goblets of wine, you reclining on a fur rug. Still romanticizing it. Because guess what? The castle still stinks. They had toilets, sure, called garderobes, basically vertical holes where waste dropped into the moat below. A moat that used to keep enemies out, but now just breeds weaponized mosquitoes. Castles are cold, damp, crawling with rats. The tapestries hide mold and secrets. And nobles. They fight over land, titles, and who gets to marry their cousin's daughter to avoid war. It's a constant chess game, except the pieces are real people, and losing costs thousands of lives. But hey, at least they get wine, meat, and semi-decent socks, which in this era is basically royalty. You know what's weird? Despite the disease, death, and dirt, people still found ways to celebrate. There's May Day, with flowers and bonfires. There's harvest festivals, where villagers drink and dance until someone falls into the fire, and it becomes a story told for the next 20 years. You wear flower crowns, you paint your face. You sing songs about sheep and saints, and that one time someone's goat gave birth to a two-headed chicken. Storytelling is survival. Folklore keeps you entertained, even if 60% of it involves getting eaten by forest spirits or cursed by moonlight. And for one night, maybe two, the world feels bearable. You laugh, you dance, you live. Because in the Middle Ages, every good day is borrowed time. So, you've been bled by a barber, accused of witchcraft, fought in a war, pooped in a bucket. And somehow, you're still breathing. Would you go back? Would you trade TikTok for turnips? Netflix for night terrors? That soft bed you're in right now for a pile of straw and a medieval parasite named Steve? Didn't think so. But here's the thing. They endured. Through horror and hunger and heartache, they endured. And every time you flush a toilet or open a fridge or send a meme, you're living the dream they could barely imagine. Respect the struggle. Appreciate the absurdity. And never, ever take soap for granted. Still want more? Smash that like button. If you made it this far, you're basically a knight now. Drop a comment. What part of medieval life would you weirdly enjoy? Be honest, we won't judge. Except Jeffrey the Duck. He always judges. Subscribe if you want to keep walking through history with dirt on your boots and sarcasm in your soul. Until next time, stay clean, stay curious, and pray you never wake up in 1347. You want to learn something? Cute. The concept of education in medieval Europe is simple. If you're rich, male, and very lucky, you might learn to read. If you're poor, female, or literally anyone else, education is something that happens to other people in distant monasteries. There are no school buses, no pencil cases, just a cold bench, a strict monk, and a Bible you can't understand because it's written in Latin. Lessons are memorized. If you forget them, you're gently corrected with a stick the size of your forearm. You learn your letters by singing them out loud, surrounded by the scent of old ink and wet wool. And don't even dream of studying math unless you're headed for the priesthood or a life of calculating grain taxes. Education isn't about growth, it's about obedience. So if you're imagining Hogwarts, stop. This is more like a boot camp for the soul with extra chanting. Let's talk about what you're wearing. Your tunic is made of coarse wool. It's itchy, heavy, and smells faintly of goat. There's no such thing as fast fashion, but everything is fast to fall apart. You own one outfit, maybe two if you're important. You sleep in it, work in it, and bury your relatives in clothes that look exactly like yours. Clothing is status. The more fabric you wear, the richer people think you are. Nobles rock long sleeves that drag through puddles like they're wiping the street for fun. Poor people wear belts to keep their tunics from flapping open and revealing more than anyone wants to see. Footwear? If you're lucky, leather shoes. If not, you wrap your feet in rags and pray you don't step in anything squishy. And don't forget the lice. They live in your clothes, in your hair, in your bed. Fashion isn't about looking good. It's about surviving the smell and scratching discreetly in public. You're not alone. Every house has its own personal zoo. Rats in the rafters, fleas in your sheets, chickens underfoot. But people also keep animals for comfort dogs, for guarding, cats for catching mice, and sometimes birds just for the sound. Cats are mysterious. Some people think they're witches in disguise. Others think they're good luck. Either way, they live dangerously. One minute you're feeding it milk, the next minute someone's accusing it of sorcery. Dogs are tougher, scrappier, and loyal until the end, unless someone throws them a bone, in which case, sorry, loyalty has its price. And then there are the horses, majestic, muddy, and crucial. You don't go anywhere far without one, but they also eat more than your family and occasionally bite for fun. And the animals are part of the household. You sleep near them. You smell like them. You talk to them more than your cousin because Jeffrey the Duck at least listens when you rant about your back pain. You're exhausted, sore, and probably have trench foot, but humans are weird. We find ways to laugh even when everything's on fire. Games exist. Some involve dice. Others involve chasing a greased pig. There are no rules. People argue. Someone throws something. Everyone laughs until someone breaks a bone. You might watch a jester, a man who wears bells, tells jokes, and flirts with execution every time he insults the wrong noble. It's dangerous comedy. Say the wrong thing and you don't get canceled, you get beheaded. Board games? There's Nine Men's Morris, basically medieval Connect 4. Card games are rare but emerging. Gambling happens, and it's just as addictive, except your wager might be your boots. If you're lucky enough to see a traveling troupe, you'll get a play about saints, devils, or morality tales where someone always dies for being too curious. And no one forgets a good bear on a leash being taunted for sport. Horrifying? Yes. But this is entertainment in a world where people literally watch executions as family fun. There's no electricity, just flickering candlelight and the sound of something moving outside your door. You secure your shutters with a wooden bar. You hope no one's watching from the trees. The forest is feared. It holds spirits, thieves, wolves, and things worse than any beast. Everyone knows someone who went in and didn't come out. You sit by the fire and listen to stories, cautionary tales about sin, curses, and the time someone saw the Virgin Mary in a piece of burnt bread. Your dreams are haunted by superstition. If your left ear itches, someone's gossiping. If an owl hoots near your home, someone's about to die. If a black dog crosses your path, you spit 3 times and sleep with a spoon under your pillow. Sleep doesn't come easy. Your straw bed is damp, your back aches, and someone is snoring like a cursed windmill in the corner. Still, you close your eyes. Because you made it through another day. And in the Middle Ages, that's as close to a miracle as it gets. You're not feeling great. Your head aches. Your joints feel like they've been crushed by a cartwheel. You mention this to someone and they nod solemnly. Sounds like your humors are out of balance. Good luck. Welcome to medieval medicine, where nobody actually knows what causes illness, but they're very confident it's your fault. The cure? Step 1. Get bled. A barber shows up with a rusty knife and a bowl. He slits your arm open just enough to let the bad blood out. If you faint, that's normal. If you die, well, you must have had too much bad blood. Herbal remedies are the go-to. Stomach ache? Try crushed snails. Toothache? Burn a candle and drip the wax into your ear. Coughing? Wrap a dead toad in cloth and wear it around your neck like a fashionable amulet of failure. Doctors don't wash their hands. Nobody does. Germ theory doesn't exist. Disease is blamed on bad air, misaligned stars, or moral weakness. People wear posies in their collars to block out the smell of sickness, and also because if you can't see the filth, maybe it'll ignore you. And if it gets really bad, say goodbye to home and hello to holy relics. Someone drags you to a shrine and prays over your feverish body. And if you recover, miracle. If not, God's will. You're wondering about baths. That's adorable. Sure, Romans built luxurious bathhouses, but by the High Middle Ages, most people are terrified of water. Not because it's cold, because they believe bathing opens your pores, which lets in disease. That's right, cleanliness equals vulnerability. So instead of bathing, you rub yourself with dry cloth. You change your undergarments when they're more crust than cloth. Maybe twice a year you wash your face. Maybe. If you're wealthy, you might have a wooden tub dragged into your chamber once a month. Water is heated by hand. Perfumed herbs are tossed in to mask the funk. A servant might scrub your back while silently regretting their entire life. Poor folks, you wash in the river. Maybe, if it's not frozen, and you don't mind sharing the water with livestock, fish guts, and the occasional decomposing thing. You smell yourself constantly, but everyone else stinks too. So it's just background noise, like birdsong, only worse. You fall in love, or you think you do. Doesn't matter. Marriage isn't about passion. It's about land, power, alliances, and wombs. If you're a peasant, you marry who your family tells you to. If you're noble, you marry who the crown tells you to. Either way, congratulations. You're now stuck with this person forever, or until the plague does you part. Love letters? They exist, written in painfully bad Latin. Courtship? That's mostly negotiating dowries and livestock. Weddings are fast, loud, and followed by bread, ale, and someone vomiting in the corner. There's no divorce. If your spouse cheats, you can publicly shame them. If you cheat, you might get whipped, banished, or shoved in a pillory. Gender double standards, alive and thriving. Still, people find ways to connect. Secret affairs happen. Poems get written. Songs are sung. And behind every haystack, someone's giggling. But love is dangerous. If you're caught with the wrong person, it's scandal. If they're married, it's a death sentence. Love, like everything else, is a gamble, and the stakes are usually fatal. You're tired of your village. You want to see the world. Bad idea. Traveling in medieval times is a full-blown quest. Roads are muddy, unpaved, and often more dangerous than staying put. Bandits hide in the woods, Wolves hunt at night, and every town has its own tolls and rules. No maps, no phones. Just a vague sense of where the sun sets and a prayer that you're not walking in circles. If you're rich, you ride a horse. If you're poor, you walk. Either way, you carry your belongings on your back or in a sack tied to a stick like a cartoon hobo. Inns are rare and wildly inconsistent. You might get a clean bed. You might get robbed in your sleep. Pilgrimages are the most common reason to travel. People walk for weeks to stare at bones in a box and hope it cures their daughter's scurvy. It rarely does. You rely on the kindness of strangers, or you bribe the local lord to let you pass. If you're lucky, you get to your destination with both shoes and most of your teeth. If not, well, at least your corpse will make a scenic addition to someone else's story. Someone steals your chicken. Time for justice. Forget courts as you know them. There are trials, sure, but they involve oaths, angry villagers, and sometimes literal trial by fire. You stick your hand in boiling water. If it heals clean, innocent. If it festers, guilty. Case closed. Justice isn't blind, it's just brutal. Punishments are creative. Thieves get their hands chopped off. Liars might get their tongues pierced. Adulterers paraded through town in shame masks with animal ears and signs that say something like, "I touched the wrong husband." Public executions are social events. Kids watch, vendors sell snacks. Everyone cheers when someone gets hanged. It's weirdly festive. And if the crime is serious treason, murder, heresy, the punishment is designed for maximum theatrical suffering, drawn, quartered, burned at the stake while a priest whispers into your ear. Medieval justice isn't about rehabilitation, it's about fear. Mess up once and you're a lesson for the whole village. You feel a chill, someone in town just died. Again. Death is a daily guest. It doesn't knock. It kicks the door in. Fevers, infected wounds, childbirth, wars, famines all lined up like death is running a bakery. People are buried quickly. No embalming. Just a wooden box or a shroud. Graves are shallow, and in bad years, mass graves become the norm. But here's the twist. People aren't scared of death the way we are today. It's expected. Life is short, brutal, and seen as a temporary test before the afterlife. Churches remind you constantly, memento mori, remember you must die. So people live fast. They laugh, love, gamble, pray, sin, repeat, because tomorrow the pox might take them, or a cart might crush them, or the Lord might just feel spicy. And still they hope, they build, they write songs, they raise children, because even when there's no Wi-Fi, no soap, and definitely no mercy, people still dream. You step off the muddy road and into the medieval city. First impression? Smell. The city doesn't hit you with a gentle breeze. It punches you in the face with a fistful of rotten meat, spilled ale, horse droppings, and every unwashed armpit within 5 blocks. There's no sewage system, no sanitation department. Waste flows in the streets, forming rivers that casually intersect with the ones you drink from. Buildings lean into each other like drunken friends. Wooden upper floors stretching over the street so close you could steal a neighbor's dinner through the window. If you slipped and fell in this town, you'd land in something awful and learn something new about despair. People push through narrow alleys. Bakers shout. Butchers fling scraps to the street dogs. There's music somewhere, the clink of hammers, the murmur of prayers, the random shriek of someone stepping on a rat. Cities are chaos compressed into stone and timber. And above it all, bells ring from the church tower. Because even when the world stinks, God still keeps time. You're hungry. Again. Let's fix that. You duck into a crowded market, dodging geese and a small child aggressively selling turnips. There's no refrigeration, no expiration dates, and no health inspectors. So food is more gamble than guarantee. You find bread. It's dark, heavy, and suspiciously chewy. If you're rich, you eat white bread made with fine milled wheat. If you're poor, you chew rice so tough it fights back. Meat is rare unless it's salted beyond recognition. Cheese is hard, aged, and smells like sorrow. Fish? Only if you're near the coast or you're willing to eat something that's been dead for 3 days and blessed by a monk to make it count as fresh. Pies are everywhere. Not the sweet kind, the mystery-filling kind. Could be pork, could be pigeon, could be cat. The crust isn't there for flavor. It's armor, a shell to keep the horrors inside. Still, there's comfort in the routine. Stew in the evening, ale with every meal. And if you're lucky, maybe a festival where someone roasts an entire pig and sings about it for hours. Medieval food is about survival. But sometimes with enough garlic and beer, it almost tastes like joy. The sun sets, the bells toll, doors close, the city changes. Now you move quickly. Night belongs to shadows and those who hide in them. Watchmen patrol with torches and clubs, more interested in bribes than justice. Stray dogs howl. Somewhere someone is definitely being robbed. Superstition swells after dark. You avoid crossroads, whisper prayers at doorways, and spit 3 times before bed, just in case a ghost follows you home. If you hear a baby crying in the distance, don't look, don't follow. That's how people disappear. If you're sick, you light a candle to Saint Sebastian. If you're afraid of dreams, you sleep with garlic under your pillow and a dagger near your chest. The church looms in the distance, silent and massive, its statues watching. You wonder if the saints ever sleep, or if they too are afraid of the night. You wrap yourself in your blanket and pray the rats don't nibble your toes. Then you sleep, deep, dreamless, like a stone sinking in a black river. Let's talk about your place in the world. You're not special. The hierarchy is strict and immovable. At the top, the king, surrounded by nobles who own land like playing cards. Below them, knights, sworn to serve but mostly concerned with showing off and not dying. Then there's the clergy monks, bishops, priests who control knowledge, fear, and salvation. Below them, merchants, craftsmen, innkeepers, people who hustle. And then, you, a peasant, or a laborer, or a servant. You work, you sweat, you obey. That's your life. And if you're lucky, maybe one day your children will rise slightly higher before dying of scurvy. The system works because no one questions it. You are told this is God's design. That being poor is your role. That suffering now means reward later. And you believe it, because believing is better than despair. Still you dream of land, of clean clothes, of not bowing every time someone on a horse passes by. Even in mud, ambition grows. It's not all bleak. Sometimes you hear it music, real music, a lute, a voice, a flute made from bone. You pause, you smile, you remember you're human. Art is everywhere, carvings in cathedrals, illuminated manuscripts so detailed they feel like magic, tapestries woven with threads of myth and madness. The stories told in these pictures, dragons, saints, knights, angels, a world richer than yours. A world where justice triumphs and sorrow makes sense. Even graffiti on a wall tells a story, a doodle of a man poking a bishop in the butt, crude, ridiculous, and oddly perfect. These scraps of culture don't just entertain. They preserve sanity. They let people feel for a moment like their lives matter beyond the field, the street, the sickness. Because as long as someone is singing, painting, dancing, carving, the soul hasn't died. Not yet. You think you want to be a knight. You've heard the stories. Armor gleaming, sword in hand, rescuing maidens and slaying dragons. Spoiler alert, the stories lie. Real knighthood is brutal. You start as a page at 7, scrubbing armor and feeding horses. At 14, you're a squire cleaning wounds, sharpening blades, and watching your knight kill people up close. Nibul. If you survive training, you're knighted with a tap on the shoulder and shoved into battle. The armor is heavy. You can barely move. And the enemy isn't a dragon. It's a man just like you, terrified and covered in mud. Knights serve lords, not justice. They enforce taxes, crush rebellions, burn villages that get too bold. Glory, maybe, but only if the poet likes you. Chivalry is a code, and like all codes, it's often ignored when convenient. Knights break rules, make deals, betray kings. They are symbols of power, yes, but not always of virtue. Still, the idea of the knight endures, maybe because we all want to believe that strength can serve something bigger than itself. The church dominates your world, but faith is personal. You pray not because you always believe, but because belief is safer than doubt. You follow rituals, lighting candles, touching relics, kissing icons because you need to think it means something. Saints become your companions. You whisper to Saint Apollonia for your toothache, Saint Dymphna for your anxiety, Saint Jude when all hope feels lost. Your life is wrapped in symbols. Bread becomes body. Bells ward off storms. Death is not the end, just the beginning of judgment. You don't understand most of it, the Latin, the rules, the threats, but you cling to the pieces that comfort. Because in a world of disease, war, and loss, faith is the one fire that never goes out. Even when you're starving, even when you're bleeding, even when you're doubting, you keep the ritual. Because belief is how people survive when everything else is beyond their control. You're born into the medieval world with a cry and a slap, same as now. But after that, everything's different. There are no baby showers, no lullabies piped through a white noise machine. If you live past age 5, you've already dodged more death than most modern adults will in a lifetime. You're not coddled. Childhood isn't a protected kingdom, it's a waiting room for labor. By age 3, you're walking. By age 4, you're hauling water. By 6, you're feeding pigs, washing clothes, or chasing geese from the grain stores. You play, of course, chasing hoops, throwing bones, laughing in the mud, but your play is short-lived. Every scraped knee could turn into a fever. Every cough could be your last. Toys are rare. If you're lucky, you carve a doll from a stick or roll pebbles in a bowl pretending it's soup. Education? Only if you're noble or destined for the church. Otherwise, the only thing you read is the sky. But still, there's joy. Children giggle. They dream. They pretend they're knights or queens. They sneak berries from the market and believe that dragons might still be real. And maybe they are. No one's proved otherwise. Being a parent in the Middle Ages means living with one foot in love and one foot in fear. You bring life into the world, but the world might take it at any moment. Plague, hunger, war. It doesn't discriminate. So you love hard and quiet. You teach with your hands. You discipline with a look. You protect as best you can. Fathers pass down tools and trade. Mothers pass down herbs and secrets. Children learn from watching, mimicking, surviving. If a child dies, and many do you mourn, but the world doesn't stop. The field still needs plowing. The bread still needs baking. You bury the tiny body, say the prayers, and wake up the next morning to milk the cow. You don't forget, you just keep going, because there's no other choice. If you're poor, school is a dream. If you're lucky, the local priest might teach you to read just enough to sound out a psalm. For the rest, education is apprenticeship. You learn by doing, watching, bleeding, getting it wrong, then doing it better the next time. If you're rich or religious, you study Latin. You memorize texts. You learn that Earth is the center of the universe, that women are distractions, and that silence is a virtue. Books are rare. Each one is handwritten, decorated with gold leaf and prayers. A single Bible might take a year to finish and cost more than a village. Paper is precious. Mistakes are scraped off with knives. Ink is made from oak galls and iron. Reading is holy. Writing is power. Knowledge doesn't flow, it trickles, and only to those who already have more than enough. Forget careers. You don't choose a profession. You are born into it. If your father is a blacksmith, you hammer iron. If your mother brews ale, you stir barley. If no one in your family has a trade, you work the fields or serve in the manor. Jobs aren't glamorous. You tan hides in stinking pits. You haul stones until your back is crooked. You spin wool until your fingers bleed. Some work indoors, scribes, clerks, merchants. Others work in the dirt, sun, and rain. Farmers, millers, shepherds, and some work in places darker still. Executioners, grave diggers, leech collectors. There's no retirement, no weekends. You work until your body gives out or your breath does. But even in toil, there's pride. The baker takes joy in crust, the carpenter in the smoothness of wood, the washerwoman in a shirt scrubbed clean. Work may break you, but it also defines you. In a world that offers so little control, skill is power. You think romance is dead today? In the Middle Ages, it was buried under a dowry contract and a handshake. Marriage isn't about love. It's about property, alliances, and the number of cows your father can offer. You're betrothed young sometimes in the crib, and married as soon as bodies are old enough to make more bodies. For the poor, it's simpler. You meet at the market, dance at a feast, exchange vows under the church's watchful eye. But love, that's optional, a bonus, not a requirement. Women are traded like land. Men are expected to provide, protect, and punish. The church insists on fidelity, but the world laughs and moves on. Still, love happens. Secret glances, stolen kisses, letters passed by candlelight, songs whispered across windowsills. And sometimes rarely, beautifully, two people truly choose each other, against the odds, against the rules. They may have nothing, but they have each other. And in a world where joy is fleeting, that's everything. You wake with death, you sleep with it. It walks behind you, beside you, never far. You see it in the plague cart, in the bloodied bandage, in the midwife's silence. The cemeteries fill fast, graves are shallow, bones mix, skulls stare from beneath thin layers of earth. But death isn't hidden, it's sung about, painted, preached. Children play near tombstones, merchants sell charms against it, priests promise salvation through it. You prepare for it your whole life. You confess your sins, you save for your funeral, you leave instructions for your soul's care, pay the church, light the candles, say the masses. And when it comes, you hope for a good death, clean, confessed, surrounded by family. The worst fate isn't death, it's dying alone, forgotten, unblessed, unmourned. But if you're lucky, just a little someone will say your name, someone will light a candle. And in that flicker, you live on. Not every day is grim. Sometimes the bells ring for joy. A saint's day, a harvest, a wedding, a coronation. Anything worth a party becomes a festival. And when that day comes, work stops, bread is shared, ale flows, and the town becomes something else entirely. Jugglers toss knives, musicians beat drums, dancers whirl in circles until the mud flies off their boots and the sky spins with them. You wear your best clothes, even if they're patched and faded. You laugh louder than usual. You kiss without shame. You remember how good life can be. And for one night, you forget the plague. You forget the taxes. You forget the Lord who owns your land. You are just a body in motion, a voice in song, a face lit by firelight. The festival ends. The sun rises. The work returns. But you carry the memory like a hidden jewel, a reminder that even in a world of dirt and death, there are moments shining, brief, defiant when you are truly alive. Crime is a brutal business. Justice, even worse. There are no forensic labs, no appeals courts, no human rights advocates. Just suspicion, accusation, and often torture. Steal a loaf of bread? You might lose a hand. Speak against the king? Lose your tongue. Accused of witchcraft? Well, now things get creative. You're tied and thrown into the river. If you float, you're a witch and must be burned. If you sink, congratulations. You're innocent, but also dead. Trials are public theater. People gather to watch the hangman do his work. Children clap. Vendors sell pies. The condemned praise. The axe falls. Sometimes justice comes in the form of shame. The stocks, the pillory, iron cages in the town square where you're spat on and left to freeze or fry. And other times it's private. A whisper, a disappearance, a noose in the woods. But not all criminals are villains. Sometimes they're hungry, desperate, wrong place, wrong time. And not all judges are just. Some wear crosses, some wear crowns, all wear power like armor. There's no guarantee you'll be treated fairly, just that you'll be treated swiftly. The world is thick with spirits. Every shadow holds a warning. Every strange noise might be a sign. You carry charms to ward off the evil eye. You hang dried herbs above the door. If a cat crosses your path, you spit over your shoulder and pray it wasn't the devil in disguise. The line between faith and fear is razor thin. The saints protect, but demons lurk. You believe in miracles and curses with equal weight. You don't walk past graveyards after dark. You don't speak the names of the dead aloud. And you certainly don't mess with fairies. They steal babies and replace them with changelings. If your crops fail, someone cursed you. If your baby dies, someone wished it. If your cow gives bloody milk, someone's been dancing with the devil. You don't understand the world, so you explain it through magic. And in a way, that's its own kind of logic. When the sun goes down, the real world shrinks. Candles flicker, shadows stretch. The silence isn't peaceful. It's listening. You don't go outside unless you must. The roads belong to wolves and worse. Spirits, bandits, things that live in the forest and never had names. Doors are bolted, crosses drawn in ash. Families huddle close. Fire is life. You hear screams sometimes, or singing, or something that sounds like both. And there are no clocks. Time is marked by the ache in your knees, the sputter of the flame, the howling of the wind. If someone knocks after dark, you don't answer. If you hear your name called from the woods, you pray it wasn't your dead sister's voice. The world at night isn't yours. It never was. You're just borrowing it by day. Leaving your village is like jumping off a cliff with no idea what's below. Roads are mud, maps are lies. If you meet a stranger, you pray they smile with both hands visible. You walk, you hitch rides in carts, you sleep in barns, under hedges, on chapel floors. Inns are rare and often filthy, beds crawling, ale sour. If you have a coin, you guard it with your life. If you don't, you keep moving. Merchants brave the roads for trade. Pilgrims do it for salvation, soldiers for conquest. But most people never leave home. You might be born, live, and die within 5 miles of the same church bell. But if you do travel, if you risk the roads, you come back changed. Eyes wide, words strange, a little harder. a little wiser, or not at all. Food isn't a matter of taste, it's a matter of chance. If the harvest is good, you eat. If it fails, you tighten your belt and thank God for boiled roots. Bread is life, but not the soft white kind. Your bread is black, heavy, coarse with bits of stone from the grinding mill. You stew everything: beans, bones, weeds. Meat is rare unless you're wealthy or lucky, or just good at poaching. Salt is gold. Spices are mythic. Sugar is a medicine, not a treat. You drink ale more than water because water can kill you. Ale is safer, warmer, calming. You eat with fingers, share bowls, sit in smoky kitchens and suck marrow from bones. Feasts are sacred. You remember each one like a holy day. You dream about roasted pig and fresh apples. You tell stories about pies that actually had meat in them. But famine waits just a frost away. And sometimes when the hunger is bad enough, people whisper stories of what the desperate do in the dead of winter. You don't repeat them, but you remember. Your village is your world. It has a church, a tavern, a handful of huts, and fields that stretch like scars across the earth. You know every name, every face, every secret that dares peek out from behind a shutter. Community is survival. You trade favors, share tools, borrow fire. You fight, gossip, fall in love, betray, forgive, and repeat. Someone always owes someone else something: eggs, bread, apology, blood. Celebrations are loud, arguments louder. There's no such thing as privacy. But there's safety in numbers. When wolves circle or soldiers pass through, you face it together. And when someone dies, the whole village carries the weight. One less voice at the feast, one less hand at the harvest. You are alone in many ways, but not truly, never completely. The village holds you, and in the end, it buries you. Yacht.